Last class we have seen how we can make the transgenics. We have seen the direct and indirect method of transformation. In direct method of transformation, ballistic run or gene run was widely used, whereas in case of indirect method of transformation, we have seen how we can use Agrobacterium tumefaciens and Agrobacterium rhizogenes to do the transformation. So now we will see how this transformants can help you to protect your plants from various diseases, insect and pest. So you can see this is the croton which is infected with croton bollworm. You can see the larva has made a hole in the ball of the croton, and it enters into the ball, and it starts feeding. So feeding of these may leads to yield loss, as well as the quality of lint will also deteriorate. If you look at this picture here, you can also see that larva has started feeding the flowers. So once it start feeding the flowers, it make a hole in the flower, and the whole crop will not able to make any ball. So these are the major devastation which is caused by mainly by the lepidopteran pest in the cotton. This so there The problem is we don't have any natural germplasm by which we can transfer the resistance gene from cotton to another variety. So what we can do, we can go for the transgenic strategies, and this slide is showing what are the different types of insects, or what are the different orders of insect which cause damages. The first one is very important, Lepidopteran pest, which the example is butterfly and moth. Then Diptera, the example is flies and mosquitoes. Orthoptera, examples are grasshopper and cricket. Monoptera, aphids, and Coleoptera beetles. So these are the major concerns. These are the larvae, and the insect larvae, they make a huge damage to the crop plant. So what are the GM strategy? GM is genetically modified organism. So what this GM strategy can give you? So you all might be knowing about the triprotein. Triprotein is crystalline protein which is obtained from Bacillus thuringiensis. Bacillus thuringiensis is a bacteria, soil-borne bacteria, and it contains the triprotein, and this triprotein will act as a toxin to the Lepidopteran pest. So this Bacillus thuringiensis was first discovered by Schiavocki in 1901 in diseased silkworm, and they found that these Bacillus thuringiensis produce the insecticidal protein, and this insecticidal protein is known as ICP. So ICP stands for insecticidal protein, and you can see the picture. This ICP is a bipyramidal in structure. So the shape of ICP is bipyramidal in structure. So if you look at the protein level, if you look at the domain, so BT gene or triprotein has three domain, domain 1, 2 and 3, very easy to remember. And you can see how this domain has been arranged. And domain, you know that this is the functional unit of a protein. So a protein having the functional domain will give you some kind of function. So triprotein has three domain 1, 2 and 3. Then we'll see what is the function of different domain. So now question is, what happens when insect ingest the triprotein? So what happened when this triprotein enters into the insect gut? So it will go for three kind of process. Three processes will initiated inside the insect mid gut. The first one is solubilization and activation. As soon as BT gene or BT protein enters into the insect gut, it goes for solubilization as well as activation. Then binding of triprotein to the mid gut receptor, and the third is formation of pore. So we'll go one by one. The first important one was solubilization and activation. So what it happens whenever triprotein enters into the insect midgut, the pH of insect midgut is 10 to 11. So this is a very basic pH. At this basic pH, the triprotein goes for solubilization, and after solubilization, there is a proteolytic enzyme cleavage. So what it does, proteolytic enzyme will cleave at C terminal to the triprotein, and after cleavage 60 kilodalton protein will be formed. So after cleavage your triprotein becomes active. So solubilization and activation, it perform two work. The first one is it solubilizes the triprotein at basic pH. The pH should be 10 to 11, and after solubilization there will be a proteolytic activity, and this proteolytic activity which is performed by gut proteases will cleave the protein as obvious. So it cleaves the protein at C terminal end and produce the 60 kilodalton toxin, and this 60 kilodalton toxin is the active toxin, and this active toxin can be perceived by mid-gut receptor. So second one is binding to the mid-gut receptor. So in the mid-gut of insect it has a specific receptor, and that receptor is known as cadherin. This is a very specific receptor, and it will bind only to the activated triprotein. So if triprotein is not activated, it will not bind to the cadherin. And if there is a mutation in cadherin, or if cadherin is not present, then also your activated triprotein will not able to bind the mid-gut receptor. So for binding to the mid-gut receptor, it is very important triprotein should get activated, then only it can bind to it. And once it can bind to cadherin receptor, there is a formation of pore. This formation of pore in the insect mid-gut leads to the damage to the larvae gut. Once in the gut of larva there is a pore formation, and then lots of water will come inside it, and your larvae will go for lysis. So in this slide, you can see the mode of action of Bt toxin. You can see here this is a graphical representation, and this cartoon shows that when Bt toxin enters into the midgut, so this Bt toxin dye will enter into the midgut, and then it will bind to the cadherin receptor. You can see here this cadherin receptor is present in the insect midgut. Your triprotein activated, solubilized as well as activated triprotein will bind to the cadherin receptor which is present in the insect midgut, and there is a formation of pore. And this formation of pore, what it does, the water enters into this pore, and your larvae grows for your larvae will burst out. So this is how this Bt toxin will work. And then initially whenever this transgenic strategies was not used, people are using the Bt gene for spraying purposes. So you can take you can also use this Bt protein, and you can spray this. You can make the formulation, and this can be used for spraying against the Lepidopteran pest. But the problem with the spraying is it has low efficacy, because whenever you spray, there are some chances, there are some plants which will not get this Bt formulation or Bt protein, so its efficacy is low. Then another very important is UV degradable short field persistence. So whenever sun emits the UV light, so when the UV light will fall on this triprotein, it get degradable, and it has also has the short field persistence. In the field condition, it will not last for more days, and it is a poor coverage. So whenever you spray that, spraying always has a poor coverage, so you have to spend more time, it is more labor you have to spend to get the higher coverage. So these are the major limitations of Bt spraying. So idea came into make the transgenic plants, you express this toxin into the plant itself. So whenever toxin will be produced in the plants itself and larvae grow and feed into it, then larvae will die. So this is the another these are the limitations of spraying. Then these are the different landmark achievement which will be helpful in doing the genetic engineering for making the Bt cotton. So in 1901 human first discovered Bt gene, and this Japanese bacteriologist is bacteriologist has isolated this Bt genes. In 1927 Bt preparation was made against the Lepidopteran pest. In 1938, the first commercial Bt product known as Sporonine was released in France. This is also important. The first commercial Bt product was released in France in 1938. Then in 1988, a Monsanto scientist produced the first cotton plant with Bt toxin gene. So in 1988, Monsanto, it is a seed company, so it is the first time they made this cotton plant, transgenic cotton plant, which includes or which produce the Bt toxin gene. Then in 1990, United States Department of Agriculture approves Monsanto, and it starts the field trial for Bt cotton in USA. So in 1990, with the help of USDA, that is the American government agency, they started and in the collaboration of Monsanto, they started the field trial with the Bt cotton. And this in 2002, the first three Bt cotton hybrids were commercially approved in India for central and southern cotton growing states. So in 2002, you might be remembering, in 2002, the first Bt cotton hybrids was released in India. So three hybrids were released in India. Then these are the different approved event in India. So you might be knowing this, the Moon 531. This contains the gene Tri1AC, and the company was Mito and Monsanto. This is the joint venture between Mito and Monsanto, and they introduced the Tri1AC gene into the Moon 531, and this event is known as Moon 531. This is the cotton transgenic plant. It's present Tri1AC gene. And another event was Moon 531 plus Moon 15985, and this contains two gene Tri1AC and Tri2AB, and this is also a joint venture between Mahito and Monsanto. So again, they introduced two gene, so they made the gene pyramidine, and they introduced two gene for better effective control of Lepidopteran pest. They use the Tri1AC and Tri2AB. Then another is event 1, which is done by IIT Kharagpur and JK Agri, and this gene they have used is Tri1AC. Then GFM event, which also contains two gene Tri1AB and Tri1AC, and this is done by Nath Seed. And BNLA 106, which contains the single gene Tri1AC, and which is done by ICAR. Then MLS 9124, which also contains Tri1C gene. So these are the different events which contains the different genes and different companies, and some of the public institutions are also involved in making the Bt transgenics. Now coming to the next slide, then development of this transgenic Bt transgenic, and these are the different landmark experiment that was done to make this Bt transgenic. The first very important landmark experiment was cloning and expression of Bt genes in E. coli. The first important step for making any kind of transgenic is to clone and express the gene. So the first important step was cloning and expression of Bt genes in E. coli, then expression of native Bt gene in plant. So whatever native gene which is present in Bacillus thuringiensis was expressed in the plant. Then since the size of the Bt gene is more, so we can also try for expression of truncated version of Bt genes in plant. If we can able to delete some portion of the Bt gene, and if we get the same kind of efficacy against the pest, then we can use the truncated version of Bt genes. Then we can also make the synthetic Bt genes for better expression in the plant, because whenever you express any bacterial gene into the plant system, sometimes you face problem in for its expression. If the expression is not much, then you may not get the same kind of efficacy against the pest. So at that time, you can go for synthetic Bt gene expression, and here you can do the codon optimization, because the bubble base or bubble code, can you can replace that, and you can get the same amino acid. So here you can play with this, you can make your own Bt gene construct, and but the amino acid should not change. So these are the landmark experiment was done to raise the Bt transgenic plants. So you can see here, this is a cartoon which is showing that how this transformation was done. The cotton variety Quota 312 was used, and the first gene Tri1AC gene was used. So Tri1 gene cassette was made, and Croter 312, which is a Croton variety, was used for the genetic transformation. After transformation, transformant plants were selected, and it was backcrossed to get the homozygous lines, and this homozygous uh, protein plant which is producing the tri1AC gene was used for release. Then important point is, whenever you can use any transgenic plants, but very important use to do the management strategy. If you not manage the transgenic plants, then your insect or pest may develop resistance. So in order to delay the resistance, you have to follow certain management strategies. And for growing any bt transgenic plants, following are the major management strategies that we have to follow. The first important one is refugia. So you have to grow the refugia along with your transgenic plants. Then you have to grow with the rotation of bt crop with non-bt crop. So you keep doing the rotation, and this rotation will also help to delay the development of resistance against bt genes. Then you can spray the another bt toxin which is not expressed in bt transgenic. Suppose you are expressing tri1AC, then you can spray the tri2AC formulation. So this will also help in killing the insect effectively. Then you can go for tissue specific expression. As you know that your lepidopteran pest or larvae feeds on ball or flower. So if we express our protein directly to the ball or flower, then the insect which is damaging ball and flowers will get killed. But those insect or those larvae which is feeding on our leaves will not get killed. So they can eat the leaf, but as soon as they try to enter into the ball, they will die. So what will happen? Insect will not try to grow inside the ball, and your crop will be saved, and you will not get much loss in the yield. And then very important is, you can go for gene pyramidine. Gene pyramidine is putting more than one gene into a same variety. So if you put tri1AC, you can put tri2AC, tri2AB, then you can go for gene pyramidine. Then if one gene will not effective, then another gene will efficiently kill the insect pest. So we'll see the refugia. This is very important management strategy that farmers has to follow whenever they grow the bt cotton or any transgenic plants. So in refugia, what they do, they in the transgenic seeds, non-transgenic seeds were also mixed. And in the border area, you can see this picture. In the border area, you can plant the non-transgenic plants or non-transgenic seeds. So these seeds are non-transgenic. So insect can able to feed on those plant which is not transformed, or plants which is not secreting the toxin. So these plants, cotton plants which is secreting the toxin or producing the toxin, bt toxin, will the plant which is producing the bt toxin will kill the insect, whereas the plants which is not producing the bt toxin will not kill the insect, or your insect will eat those plants. So you may ask that why it is useful. So what happened, whenever there is a selection pressure, when insect keep feeding the toxic plant, then what will happen? There is a chance that your lepidopteran pest develop the resistance. So once the lepidopteran pest, if they develop the resistance, and if it mates with the resistant larvae, and then their offspring will be also resistant. So if their offspring will be produced resistant, then they can multiply, and they can able to break our resistance. So what we can do that, if some of the larvae get some of the larvae produce the can able to survive on the toxin or become resistant, then they can meet with the some of the larva which is not resistant. So this refugia plant which is grown at the border and which is also mixed in between, there you can find some wild type larvae. So if the resistant larvae will mate with the wild type larvae as shown in the picture, the offspring will be wild type, which is not which is not the resistant, and what will happen? Your resistance will not break. So in refugia, you can see in refugia there are lots of larvae are there. But in case of normal field, in case of field where transgenic plants are producing, you can find very few larvae is there. So there is very few damage is there. So only very fraction of the population will develop the resistance, and they have to come out to the refugia plant for their metal, and more than 99.99% chance is there they can mate with the wild type, and the ultimate offspring that is produced will be the wild type. So they will not, so your resistance will not, resistant mutant will not form, or we can say that we can delay the formation of resistance larvae. Then then there are different concerns with the transgenic crop. Although we as a scientist or as a students of plant breeding biotechnology pathologist, you know that bt proteins or bt genes are safe, but still we have concerns if we go and try to convince the farmer, or if we go and convince to the NGO people. They say that no, 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 there are lots of concerns with the transgenic crops. So these are the major concerns. The first important concerns with the transgenic crop is human health risk. So there is a possible allergen. Some people says that transgenic or transgene may have the possible allergen, and there is a fear to damage the human health from foreign gene. So they always fear about if foreign gene will enter into our body, then it may leads to some damage. So here, but these concerns are not scientifically correct, because whenever you want to make the transgenic, first you have to test whether it has the possible allergen or not. The first step, whenever we clone any gene or whenever we work with any protein, we have to we used to see the similarity between allergen. If we find there are some similarity between known allergen, then we can discard that. We cannot use it for making the transgenic plants. So, and after that also we have to perform the feeding experiment with the animals, then feeding experiment with the volunteers. So there are different steps. So before coming to the market, it has to pass through the different steps, and it has to go through the different regulatory authorities. So there is no chance that your transgenic plants will have the allergen. And you know that these genes are made up of ATGC. They are the nucleotides. So even if we consume any foreign gene, nothing will happen. Say for example, we are eating vegetable, we are eating fruits, they also contain foreign gene. But it is not like that. Whenever they enter in our body, they will recombine with our DNA. It's not like that. If we eat that, it has to pass through the digestive juice, and everything will get digested. Our nucleic acid will get also digested. So these two fears are not genuine, and we can say that transgenic plants may not have the human health risk. It because it passed through the different regulatories, and once it is sure that it doesn't have any allergen and it doesn't have any human health issues, then only it must be released for the general cultivation. Then another important point is environmental risk. We say that there may be some environmental risk like unintended harm to other organism, then pests develop resistance to the transgenic plants, then gene transfer to non-targeted species. So unintended harm to the other organism. So whenever you release any transgenic, you have to see that whether it has some unintended harm to our another organism or not. Say for example, ladybird beetle. If our BT gene will kill the ladybird beetle or any other beneficial insect, then we should not use that. But you have seen that BT gene, it will bind to the specific receptor. So these specific receptors are only present in the Lepidopteran pest. So your BT gene or BT toxin will not have any adverse effect to any beneficial organism. Even our human body, if we consume the BT protein or triprotein, nothing will happen, because our stomach pH is acidic. So it will not solubilize at acidic pH, because you have seen that for the solubilization we need the basic pH. So in our stomach the pH is 4 to 5, so it will not solubilize. And even though it is solubilized, then we don't have the cadmium receptor. So we human or our vertebrates, they don't have the tryptophan receptor. So triprotein will not bind to the tryptophan receptor, and there is no pore formation will be there. So we don't have any harm. So unintended harm to other organism, that need to be assessed. And if we are sure that these genes or these proteins doesn't have any unintended harm to our beneficial insects or even the human birds, then only it should be released. Then pest may develop resistance to the transgenic. It is true. All the varieties, whether it is released by genetic engineering or by conventional breeding or by molecular breeding, there is a chance that it can develop the resistance. So it's a science. We keep growing. We keep making new transgenic plants. We keep making the new hybrids so that once it develop the resistance, then we can release the another variety. Or there are other strategies also. If we follow the refugia, then we can delay the process of resistance, developing resistance in insect pest. If we follow the gene pyramiding, then again we can delay that. So if we follow the SOP, standard operating process, uh, procedure, then we can delay the formation of or developing resistance in the against the transgenic plant. Then gene transfer to non-target species. So it is what basically it is saying that horizontal gene flow. That is also true. Horizontal gene flow may occur, but the chance is very rare since we don't apply the selection pressure. Even though some gene will transfer to non to wide relatives, if we don't apply the selection pressure, then this gene will not carry forward. It will be diluted out. And this is not, and even the horizontal gene flow is not easy. You all, most of you are plant breeder, you know that crossing program is not easy. If it is so easy, then you might have kept one variety with another variety, and next day morning you come up with, okay, crossing has done. So gene transfer is, horizontal gene transfer is not an easy phenomenon. So environmental risk is there, but if we are careful, then we can minimize this environmental risk. Then another important problem is economic concerns. So what are the economic concerns? That fear of economic concentration. So what here we wanted to say that if multinational companies will sell the transgenic seeds, then anytime they can raise the price and they can control the market, and as well as the cultivation practices. So for this purpose, our universities or public funded institutes can come forward. They can make their own transgenic plants. And if we can, universities, state universities or public and private companies, they make the transgenic plants, then there will be a competition, healthy competition will be there, and we can reduce the economic concentration. Then intellectual property rights and ethics. Most of these genes are patented. So if we have to use any patented genes, then we have to take the permission and we have to follow the ethics, then only we can use that. And there is a failure to exercise regulatory oversight. So this point we have to be careful whenever we want to use this transgenic plant, or whenever we release the transgenic plants for commercial cultivation, there should be a strict monitoring for the regulatory bodies. So there are possible concerns, but if we are careful, then we can successfully manage that. So this BT cotton, we have seen that, and in the BT brinjal has also been released. It is released in Bangladesh. You can see the damage which is caused in brinjal. So this, you can see the pore which has been formed in the brinjal, and this because of this pore or hole formed in the brinjal fruit, it lost the economic value. And if there is a severe effect, then plants will produce less yield, and there is a drastic decrease in the yield. And this is mainly caused by fruit and shoot borer in the brinjal. Then why we need the BT brinjal? If there are some vegetable people, they may argue that if we need BT brinjal or not, but these are the possible reasons why we need BT brinjal. The first important point is there is no natural resistance, it just in the germplasm. So there are lots of research has been carried out, but till now we are not able to find any resistant germplasm of brinjal which can tolerate the fruit and shoot borer effect. There are moderate but not 100% resistance we have seen, and limited success with the traditional management. If we use any management practices, if there are some reported, but they have the limited success, we didn't get much success. And because of this, there is a huge utilization of pesticides which results in the development of resistance in insect, because whenever you apply large amount of pesticides, use pesticides, then it causes the resistance in the insect and harmful effect on environment, health of farmers and consumers. So if we consume pesticide treated fruits or pesticide treated brinjal, it will harm us also. And this harmful effect of pesticides on the environment as well as health of the persons is well known. So BT Brinjan has potential to provide economic health benefits. So as we all know that if we make the transgenic or if we can produce the BT Brinjal, it can able to minimize the fruit and shoot borer. Then farmers may get the more price. And since this will utilize less amount of the pesticides, so it may be human beneficial also. So these are the landmark experiment which is performed for the development of BT brinjal. The micro they have started, and they obtained the Tri1 AC gene from Monsanto, and they put this Tri1 AC gene under enhanced 35S promoter. 35S is a cauliflower mosaic virus promoter. It's a constitutive promoter. So they cloned the Tri1 AC gene under a CMB 35S promoter. They use the NPT2 gene, that is a kanamycin resistance gene, as a plant selectable marker, and they raise the event EE1. This event was selected for the commercialization. So in India, 2006, expert committee EC1 examined the biosafety data, and then they found that BT brinjal is safe and equivalent to the non BT counterpart. So they didn't find any differences in the yield and other thing between BT brinjal and wild type brinjal, and they recommended for the large scale trial to allow large scale trial in India. So in 2006, expert committee 1 has examined the biosafety data, and they found that there is not drastically difference, or they are at par, either BT brinjal and the wild type, they are at par with the yield and other traits, so they recommended for the large scale field trial. In after 3 years, in 2009, expert committee 2 they again examined the data for these trials, and they advised the genetic engineering appraisal committee GEAC to recommend it for the commercialization of BT brinjal. So this is also an important step where EC2, expert committee 2, has is again examined the biosafety data or trial data, and they advise the GEAC, that is the apex body for biosafety regulation in India, and they recommended for the commercialization of BT brinjal. In 14th October 2009, GEAC, that is a genetic engineering appraisal committee, cleared BT brinjal for commercialization. So they recommended or they cleared the BT brinjal for commercialization, and they sent the recommendation to the government of India. But on 9th February 2010, government of India said that there is no, they don't want to release in a hurry. So they don't want to release BT brinjal in hurry. They want to wait for some more time. And in and on 17th February 2010, when Jairam Ramesh was the minister, they imposed the temporary moratorium on this release of this BT brinjal. So Jairam Ramesh said that they don't want to release it now. They want to keep it for some more time. So they said that moratorium was brought, and they they temporarily banned the release of this BT brinjal in India. So these are the benefits to the farmers if we have the transgenic plants. So what benefit they can achieve? The first important benefit is they can considerable reduction in the cost of production. So we say that if we use the transgenic plants or BT brinjal or BT cotton, so there is a drastic reduction in the production cost. Why? Because we have to apply less amount of the pesticides. So if we spray less amount of the pesticides, then there is a reduction in the cost of production of the cotton as well as any transgenic plants. Then there is manifold increase in the yield per unit area. So we say that if we use the transgenic plants, our yield will be increased because there is a less damage by the fruit and shoot borer or any other insect and pest, so we can get more yield. Then there is a significant improvement in the marketable unit. If we use the transgenic plants, then we can increase the marketable value. Like if our fruits or if our brinjal are is look good, if there is no damage in the fruit, we will get our farmers will get more money for this. And there is a reduction in direct exposure to the insecticide. So you know that whenever they want to save it from the insect or diseases, they apply heavy amount of the pesticides to save their crop from the insect or disease attack. So if we use the transgenic plant, then there is a less amount of or there is a less exposure of insecticides, so that will also be beneficial to the human and environmental health, and they will also save the money of the farmers. So now there is a concern that or there are different benefits to the ecology and environment. So till now we have talked about the farmers, but if we use the transgenic plants, then there is a benefit to the ecology as well as environment. The first important point is reduction in the pesticide residual in soil and water. So if we use less amount of the pesticides, then their pesticidal residue in soil and water will be less. Then lesser pollution of air and water and environment due to decreased use of insecticides. So whenever we spray the insecticides, lots of insecticides will go to the environment, lots of insecticides will reach to the soil, so they cause the pollution, and then it also goes to the river or ponds. Then the third important point is protection of naturally occurring predators and parasitoids and other beneficial organisms due to reduced use of insecticides. So whenever we use the non-selective insecticides, they will not only kill the major pest, but they will also kill the some of the beneficial insects. So if you apply less amount of the pesticides, then they will kill less amount of the predators and parasitoids. Then there is a reduction in the soil and groundwater contamination. So if we use less amount of the pesticides, then our soils and groundwater water bodies will not get contaminated. Then there is a safeguarding of soil microflora and invertebrates from the damage caused by unintended and excessive use of insecticides. So whenever we spray insecticides or pesticides, they will kill the insect and pest, targeted insect and pest, but lots of this insecticide or pesticides will fall on the soil, and once it fall on the soil, they can kill or they can damage the non-targeted microflora also. So these are the major benefits of transgenic strategies. So now we will stop here. Thank you.